You may notice that there is a noticeable lack of extruder on my rail. My mount broke. I was trying to rework my Z-axis lift over here, and the whole thing dropped down onto the bed and didn't break anything on the extruder itself, but it did actually crack my my bracket here. And I noticed for some reason I had printed this with almost no infill and not too many layers or too many shells. I think there was only 4 there, so it's just as well this probably would have broken anyway. So I'm reprinting it now with more infill and more shells. That should make it a lot stronger. I added a little bit more material to the design to make it a little bit stronger too. So that is printing. Moving on, I got my X-axis end stop installed. Yes, this is completely different than that one and this one. I still can't find my bag of end stops, and I realized I was going to have to, well, I just realized that if I'm reprinting this piece, then I could have added a flag. Anyway, what I was going to do for an optical end stop was to print another flag and put another optical one on here. But then I realized it would be better to have some type of a rocker switch that everything just pushes against it. So just for the sake of showing anybody who's watching who might be interested that it really doesn't matter what kind of end stop you've got, whether you've got a special board with circuitry on it or an optical one, or if you've just got a switch that just closes a contact, any of those will work with the ramps board as far as being a workable sensor to home your bed or your axis. So I've just got a switch here. I made designed a bracket for that and printed that off. This runs through this extruder. I'm going to try to make the wiring pretty on this one. I've got all this bag of, I don't know what you call it, but it covers up the gaps and I can run wire through it. So it runs through there to make that one pretty. And it works really well. So everything homes, and this end stop works okay. So I just have to wait for this piece to print, and then I can pick up back where I left off. So I guess while I have a few minutes while this is still printing, I will take a moment to talk about end stops because somebody had asked me about them a while back. So on the ramps board, and it's difficult to see because I have wires everywhere, but you have a row of pins right here. There are 3 of them, and they are power. Red, when you look at the wire harness, red is power. It's 5 volts out, and then black is ground, and green is your signal input. So you can have something like this end stop switch back here that has all 3. It's got power to run that LED when the switch is closed, and it's also got ground, has to have ground, and it's got a ground signal or a green signal wire that runs back to the board over here. Now, if you pull up just about any schematic of the ramps board, it'll show you your end stop bank here, and you've got these would be red, the bottom row here, and then black, and then green is your signal again. So they're X minus and X plus, Y minus and Y plus, Z minus, Z plus. And they show your X, Y, and Z end stops, being connected to those. So in reality, the 5 volts is there as a convenience, just in case you need it for some type of circuitry. All you really need is to short that signal pin, the green one, to the black ground pin, and that will sense your end stop. So in the case of my optical sensor here, I have to have power to run my sensor, and I have to have ground to have a complete circuit and run my sensor. But my green signal wire, literally internally with the transistor, shorts the signal to ground, and that's what the ramps needs to see the ground signal. On this kind of switch right here, let me show you what the other side looks like. I have no idea how well this comes through, but you can see a 1, a 2, and a 3. The 1 is common, 2 is NC, normally closed, and 3 is NO, normally open. Oops, there's my common lead right there. My finger was on top of it. So all I've really done is connect my common to my normally open. So there's normally no complete circuit there. This pin is normally open. But when I push on the switch, it connects those two and shorts my signal to ground, and then my end stop is sensed. I forget who it was that asked me about it, about signals and connections and such, but they had said if I'm ever building a printer sometime, it would be nice to go through the electrical and connections and such, just so somebody else doesn't have to fumble through it again. So feel free to ask any kind of questions like that if there's something I can answer. Another thing that I found incredibly useful was I spent all of, I don't know, $1.70 on AliExpress one time to buy a set of cables. They're an entire set of pre-wired cables for a Prusa style printer. So they've got 2-pin, 3-pin, 4-pin, all kinds of different end connectors, and it's supposed to be for an entire kit. But it's been proven to be surprisingly useful. I've used it for a lot of the connections on this printer. So another one of those things that I can suggest that have helped me a lot in the building process is just buying a complete kit of these wires just to save yourself the time of trying to make your own cables. Woohoo! It's done! Awesome! There we go. Alright, we are back in black. New bracket in place. Everything's tight. Everything moves. Let's see if this will home with my new limit switches. There's Y, X, and Z, or X and Y. Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, everything homes. Awesome. Okay, we are ready for a dry run, and I'm using Printerface with my computer, and I have loaded in this G-code file of a cube with holes in it, and I am going to hit start. Looking good so far. This is just, I'm not extruding any filament. I'm just testing all my axes to make sure I can actually give it a G-code file and everything works, nothing missteps or is broken. So if I were imagining what this was supposed to do, it looks like everything is doing what it's supposed to do. It's drawing the square, it's doing the infill. Okay, encouraging so far. I am warming up the hot end. We'll see if anything smokes here. I got a set point of 210. It is kicking its way up there. Should be there pretty quickly. And we're there. Awesome. Okay, so we are at temp and regulating. So let's see if my extruder will extrude. Let's go 1 millimeter. Oh, there we go. I was a little worried there for a second. Alright, can't do anything without an extruder, so that works. Awesome. I think I'm ready to see if I can print something. Alright, I manually set my 0. I old schooled it with a piece of paper. I got my blue tape on my bed. This is a wood bed, so I can't, well, I guess I could put a piece of glass on it. But anyway, I'm just going to blue tape it for now. Here we go, hitting start. Crap in a cup, it's printing. Look at that, boys and girls. I am excited. Doesn't look too bad yet either. Let's see what this does. I'm not going to sit here and watch this for hours. At least not videotape it. Oh, stringing. I have no idea what my retraction settings are. I'm going to have to look at the firmware and see. But, oh, that's interesting. My heat shut off. Huh. Yeah, okay, so my heat shut off because when I was testing this at room temperature, I had to tell it to print at room temperature. So, I had to fix that. So, I'm confident, I'm not sure what kind of quality I'm getting here, but I'm confident that I can make it better than what it originally was. So, while it is printing here, this used to be a 100 by 100 by 100 printer. You could only print on this part of the bed. You couldn't even do 100 on it, on the X. So I've substantially improved on that by printing sideways. So now I can get 100 in the Y. I can get about 180 on the X and a little over 100, I think 110 on the Z. So I've actually improved on the build space on this. It's kind of non-traditional to see a long, wide bed. Usually they're square or round, but whatever. I have hit my goal of turning these pieces into a better printer. It's not looking too bad. Now that I'm getting farther into the print, it's actually starting to do something more interesting. So it's going to start building the holes on the sides. This always did move pretty quickly. These are 1.7 amp motors. They're pretty torquey, even though the frame was just in, a shambles all the time. It did move pretty quickly, so I have no doubt that this printer will be able to print at a decent speed when I get done. I'm hearing an odd squeak in the Y-axis. Maybe one of my... It might be this idler bearing, which I've never tested, so it just came with a bag of other idler bearings. One thing the original printer did not have, and I added later, was a part cooling fan. And it's just now occurring to me that it still doesn't have a part cooling fan. I'm going to have to add that. I can tell by looking at my model that it's kind of soft looking. Camera probably can't pick that up, but this may not end up printing well by the end of it. So I red-decked myself together a fan real quick. I just laid it on the bed, pointed it at the print. Obviously I'll do something better later, but it already seems to be helping the layers look better. You can see they're pretty horrible looking down near the bottom, and since I added the fan, they're looking much better. So definitely a must with PLA. I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but this little guy will have plenty of upgrades, that's for sure. Well, I got up to get a drink and accidentally kicked the power strip and got it turned back on real quick, but obviously it missed a bunch of steps while the power was off. Didn't even know that would happen. Thought it would just reset itself, but I guess the Arduino board runs off the 5 volts from the USB, so all I lost was heat and stepper drives, so I guess this one's done. I'm looking this over and it has some weird looks to it. There's a gap where it missed a couple layers. I know what happened there. That's with my slicer. Not the greatest print I've ever... Oh, you know what? I was just thinking, boy, it looks really loose. I never tightened the screws for the uprights. So those have been loose the whole time. I remember that now that I left them loose so I could move it in and out if I needed to get things lined up. I don't think I ever did. Oh. Well, I'll have to line all that up and redo all my alignments and calibration and start over. Good thing I know how to do this. All right, I'm calling it a night. It prints. Yay. I'm super happy with the work I put into this, and I've got to do some cable management now, and a lot of other stuff. But stay tuned. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.